The choices of pegs to pitch your tent or tarp is infinite, but which one is the best, the lightest, and is there any actual differences in strength when it comes down to the practical use? Well, this and much more is what this episode is all about, so stay tuned. Hi and welcome to a new episode, and today it is all about pegs, and even more pegs. We are going to talk about 8 different choices available out there and go through the specs, my thoughts and experience, but most of all we are going to test them out and see how they compare to one another regarding the strength it takes to pull them up from the ground, like in a real case scenario when out on a hike. When I look for a peg, I want one that is lightweight, of course, but also one that doesn't give in if the weather turns bad and that doesn't get pulled up easily. My first choice for a long time has been the aluminum V pegs, and the one that I've been using for the last couple of years is the ones from Duck. In my eyes, this is what I call standard pegs and the one most people do recommend to others. The 8 pegs we will talk about today and the one that we will try out and compare to one another is the more generic ones that most people are using and that are meant to be used for 3-season hiking. So without further ado, I present to you the contenders. First up is the aluminum V-peg from Duck. The length is 160 millimeters and it weighs 13 grams including the pull loop. The second one is a short aluminum tube stake from Big Sky, 145 millimeters, and it weighs 10 grams. The third peg is also an aluminum tube stake from Big Sky, but this one is a bit longer, 180 millimeters, and weighs 12 grams. Number 4 is the first titanium option and a no-name brand from China. 125 millimeter V-peg that together with the pull loop weighs 8 grams. Then we have the no-name aluminum Y-shaped peg with no pull loop. The length is 180 millimeters and it weighs 13 grams. Number 6 is this test's lightest option, a no-name titanium shepherd hook at only 6 grams, and it is 150 millimeters long. Number 7 is another peg from Big Sky, the long Ultra C peg that is 135 centimeters long and weighs 9 grams. Last but not least, we have the shorter Ultra C from Big Sky, only 115 millimeters, and it weighs 8 grams. My thoughts regarding this comparison between the pegs was that it's going to be a big difference between the pegs and the force it takes to pull them up from the ground. Especially if you look at the bigger Y peg, also called the groundhog, and the longer tube stake from Big Sky. Both of these are 180 millimeters long and they both look really sturdy, so my guess is this will be the better ones. If we then compare them to this thin and lightweight shepherd hook in titanium, well, my first thought was this is going to be just crap and it is going to end up lost in this test. But what do you think? Which one is going to be the best? Which one is going to perform the worst? And do you already now have a favorite amongst these 8? Well, leave a comment. Anyway, the first round regarding the weight goes to the titanium shepherd hook, and with a big margin I might add. 6 grams ain't much. Now over to the fun part, the practical tests, and see how it was done, and then we collect all the data and summarize everything, and then I will present to you a winner in this test and the best choice. Hi and welcome to the practical test of the pegs to see if it is a difference in strength, and if so, how big of a difference is it? To test this out and make sort of a standard test procedure to test this out in a fair way and to get a good result, I'm going to put the pegs all the way down into the ground so that you only see the tip of the peg where the guy line sits, and in a 45-degree angle. Just the way you would do it in a normal situation when you're pitching your tent and out on the trail. Then I will attach a 2-meter guy line to the peg and stretch the guy line out. Now I'm going to try and stand here holding the guy line to reflect a normal angle like it would to be attached to a tent and about 1 meter up from the ground, right where my belly button is. In the end, I will then also attach a luggage scale, like the one used when traveling and weighing our bags and backpacks before a trip. These ones are pretty accurate, and I hope it's going to be good enough to get a good and reliable result. No problem. I will also try the pegs out 3 times each, and the value given to you later is going to be the average of these 3 measurements. Now, without further ado, let's try the pegs out. And first out is what I call a standard peg, the duck V-shaped pegs. So that was the first peg and the first try, and it required more force than I expected. So my guess is this is going to be one of the better ones. It required 13.9 kilo of pressure before it gave in. So it's going to be interesting to see how it stands up to the others. Now I have to try it 2 more times to get an average, and then I have to do all of them before I can present a result to you. No time to waste, so let's get to it. My work here is done, and we have a result. Some of them was a bit surprising. Okie dokie then. I have to say that that was an interesting thing to do, and to compare them side by side gave me a lot to think about. Some performed much better than expected, some much worse. And I have to add that the ground at the time for the test was a bit soft, but they all had the same conditions, so the numbers are comparable. Now let's look at the numbers, and I will present them in order from the worst to the best. The absolute worst, and at a pull force at 8.6 kilos, is the Ultra C short peg from Big Sky. Then we have the titanium V peg at 9.5 kilo and the Ultra C long peg from Big Sky at 10.2 kilos. And the short tube stake from Big Sky at 12.1 kilos. I believe you have all seen the trend here. The bottom part of the gang is also the shortest pegs. And as you can see, the result exactly follows the length of the pegs. Now let's continue and see about the others. The very thin titanium shepherd hook comes in as the number 4 on the list and at 13.3 kilos, followed by the duck V-peg at 14.3 kilos in 3rd place. Also here the trend continues where the duck V-peg is the longest of the 2. But who is going to take the 1st place? Is it going to be the long tube stake from Big Sky or the Y-shaped peg? Well, both is 180 millimeters long, so 2nd place goes to the Y peg at 14.6 kilos. And that means that the winner is the long tube stake from Big Sky. Wow! Yay!
Nice.
The force it took to pull this one up from the ground was 15.5 kilos. It required almost 1 kilo more of force compared to the Y peg, despite being the same length. We have a result, and the best peg of them all is the long tube stake from Big Sky, and at only 12 grams it is actually lighter than my standard V-peg. If anything, this test showed that the shape of the peg has less influence and the length make all the difference. Even the titanium shepherd hooks performed in line with the others despite being so thin and all, and that I find to be a bit surprising. If I now were to choose a peg to recommend, I would recommend you to choose a peg that is as long as possible, 150 millimeter or longer, and preferably also a tube stake, if to believe this test. I will link to Big Sky in the description that sells these ones in sets of 4 or 8. If you have any questions regarding this test, how it was performed, or if I wasn't clear enough, feel free to post a comment or contact me in any way possible, and I will then try to come back to you with an answer as soon as I can, as always. But for now, if you like this episode, take a look at these 2 recommendations on my other videos. Also do hit like, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future content. I hope also to see you again next week. Safe hiking and bye bye!